Hey folks, this is week 10. We're still focused on Dreamwork, and this will be a little shorter. It's probably one of the shortest weeks of all, just because the work for this month is to keep a dream dictionary. A dream journal. And that is going to take at least 5 minutes a day, hopefully every day. And if you're doing that, that's 35 minutes per week already, right? And so we only have about an hour to 45 minutes, preferably to an hour of work per week. And so I'm going to really try to stick to that. And also, what I'm going to talk about today is really more to support you in doing your dream journal, and less to add so much new information to consider. It is really mostly about um, making that commitment to dream work. Hopefully, this shorter thing will give you an opportunity to maybe read some of Freedom Dreams as well. So let's get started. So, our allies for dream work are really going to be whatever supports our sleep, comfort, rest, and relaxation. So, that can include any habit that helps you dream. That could be taking an Epsom salt bath before bed. That could be meditation. It could be yoga. It can be another movement based practice. For me, it is recording my dreams, interpreting my dreams upon waking, right? It could be an herbal ally like mugwort, which we talked about in the first week. In the first month, or a sleep ally like skullcap. Or California poppy that always gets my dreams together, or anything else that like makes you feel as though you can regulate your sleep. It might be turning off the TV for a couple hours before bedtime. It may be reducing screen time, as we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes, right? It can also be part of your routines. That could mean like you have a hot cup of tea before bed, or you change how often you change your sheets. That's a big one for me. Or keeping a set bedtime, even, right? I think that with sleep, it's very important to look at sleep as something that we are all experts in, right? We sleep generally every night. So each of us has some sort of aptitude about what we need for sleep, but without unlike I would say plant-based or earth-based work or pattern-based work, um, the barrier to entry of dreaming is really more our physical life, our schedule, right? And also it can be cyclical, because when we're using or working with dream work to interrupt and recover from cycles of burnout, it can be like, okay, so I'm not sleeping enough, so I'm burning out. Now I've burnt out, so I'm not sleeping enough, right? And so because I'm not sleeping enough, I'm not sleeping enough, and because I'm burning out, there's no sleep, right? So it's just like it's a vicious circle. And so thinking about our bedtime, and also what is it called, like revenge, like bedtime, like where you push back your bedtime later and later because you feel like you didn't have enough free time in the day. These are all things that I have run into in terms of keeping sleep consistent. I know other people may have run into them as well. I will also say too, for some neurodivergent people, myself included, insomnia is just like kind of part of the deal, right? As an autistic person, the first time I remember being in like having insomnia, I was like 10, and I had persistent insomnia to some degree for a really long time. And one of the things that really helped me have less of a problem with insomnia, because again, some of that stuff is just life for me, is really being intentional about when I go to sleep. Like being honest about when I feel tired. And then as a person with lupus, I'm fatigued all the time, right? So I am someone who naps. I am someone who naps, and I'm proud to be a person who takes naps. But that can sometimes mean that my relationship to nighttime sleep is different. So these are all things to consider. And I think one thing, if I leave you with anything today, it's that the more we put pressure on our sleep, or put pressure on ourselves to change our sleeping habits, um, sometimes the more like our sleep rebels. So be easy with yourself, because even though it's like a biological process, there can still be a lot of things that come up, not just in our relationship to rest, right, but in our relationship to sleep. These again are the dream dictionaries that I recommend. I want to recommend them again. I think they're really important when you're learning how to interpret your dreams or recording your dreams. And even if you're not like using these books as like a one-to-one, okay, this is what this means, this is what it doesn't mean, etc. It's still good to kind of think about the things that you can be clocking in your dreams, right? So, oh, okay, well, this is something that might have meaning. Okay, like it's a gray day versus a sunny day versus the nighttime, right? And those have different shades of meaning. Now, you might not feel like your dreams correspond exactly to what is said in the book, but that doesn't mean that it still can't be helpful to see some of the dream symbols that have correspondences in there. And they do differ again. The Dreamer's Dictionary, I do that every time. The Dreamer's Dictionary is laid out really in a strict alphabetical order, whereas Illustrated Dream Dictionary is laid out both alphabetically and by category. This one is in British English, so like you can't find things like cookies in there. You got to look for biscuits. And then for biscuits, like American, especially Southern style biscuits, you have to look at like bread rolls, right? And then wonder if it really corresponds or they're just not thinking about it. That's a problem that I find. But this one is in American English for the most part, so it might be easier to find that. All right. So let's talk about recording our dreams. So this month, of course, you have a dream journal in which to write your dreams. One of the things that I find true about recording your dreams is that it gives you a wider vantage point through which to view your non-waking life. I'm someone who dreams even in naps. You may be too. But the purpose of recording your dreams, whether they're your daydreams, whether they're your fantasies about the future, or other types of desires, or your sleeping dreams, is to spot trends, to intervene in patterns that are no longer serving you, and also just to see how you change over time, which I think is really cool. And so when you record your dreams, and don't worry, this is in the guide. This guide is in the journal itself. So like when you open up the example entries, you'll find these questions. I encourage you to answer the following questions as you're doing your work, recording your dreams this week, which again, if you do it each day, will take about 35 minutes overall. And so, this is a time for you to really explore what that looks like, right? And next week, we're going to talk about interpreting your dreams with tarot and other ways that dreams have been interpreted, and the reasons and how they've been interpreted, and also some of the barriers to sleep that we may be experiencing and how we can kind of get around them. But those questions are: who was there? That is always very important. Recording who was in your dreams, what they're doing, where you were, what your vantage point is. For instance, I had a dream the other day that my landlord moved the garden that I keep, and I could not see it. And it just looked like it was just grass, and they had moved the potted plants and everything. And I saw that they had actually just moved it, but they had also opened up a grave. And I was standing over and I was looking into it, and it had a skeleton in it, and it was a very muddy skeleton. And, so that was my perspective. So I was looking down into the grave. That is very important in dream interpretation. As you'll see, if you choose to get one of these books, I don't get any commissions or anything. I'm not like selling you the book so I can make money or anything. These are just books that I use and have used for a very, very long time. I think that I have used one of these books, I've used the Illustrated Dream Dictionary since I was 13 years old. I remember getting it from the Target, and that was 13. So I've been using that for 22 years. And I've probably been using the Dreamer's Dictionary since I was 15 or 16. So a long time with both of them, not getting commission. Maybe I should, right? Maybe I should write to them and be like, hey, can I get some commission for as many times as I sold your book? But I'm not getting paid, so don't worry. I'm not just saying it because of that. This is also really important. How you feel can be the difference between a precognitive dream and a predictive or prophetic dream. And so, like, really paying attention to how you felt, what your responses were to certain things, right? Because you can have a dream where you watch somebody get laughed at and you feel great, right? Or you can have a dream where, you're getting beat up and you're feeling terrific. Or you can have a dream where you win the lottery and feel bad. That's very important information. And so making sure you're recording those shades of feeling, those shades of meaning, is part of interpreting your dreams. All right. And now we're going to talk about sleeping to dream. And this is multifaceted, but I don't know that any of it is going to be something you've never heard before. But it's important to remember, right? Especially when we're trying to optimize our dream life to have more information, right? To get more information about our daily life. If we're optimizing our dream life to get more information about our daily life, right? And to better navigate our jobs, our lives, our relationships more easily, which I do believe that dream interpretation helps us do, then that starts with the science of sleep, right? So timing, it does suck, but like the timing of your sleep, it really matters. So going to sleep around the same time every night makes you more likely to get a good sleep. And also waking up around the same time. Like we know that regularity has an impact on the quality of sleep, which no fun, but seemingly quite true. Reducing pre-bed screen time, also a hassle, but and even though most of the studies about screen time have been about adolescents, um, some of those studies have shown that 2 or more hours of screen time a night can delay the release of melatonin and can make it harder for people to go to sleep and stay asleep. So it can have consequences for your ability to go to sleep. And mind you, one thing that I should absolutely say before we go any further is that dreams that we can trust don't happen immediately as we're going to sleep, right? They generally happen about 2 hours into our dreaming, right? And will, yes, like about 2 hours after we go to sleep, those are the dreams that we want. So dreams that happen when we are tossing and turning, dreams that happen in light sleep, um, they can be true and prophetic, right? And they can also be doing something else, right? They're more likely to be physical dreams. They're more likely to have more complicated meanings that have to do with things we already know and what's happening in our bodies and the way that we're feeling more generally, right? They're less likely, although it's not possible for it to be a precognitive or predictive dream, right? It's just it makes it a little less likely because we're not in the realm of deep sleep yet. And lastly, let's just talk a little bit about sleep rituals, right? And so making sure that you know what you need in order to get into the mood to sleep. So maybe you have a ritual that brings you comfort, blankets, white noise, aromatherapy, counting sheep. I count sheep. I definitely do. It relaxes me, it calms me down, it gets my mind off something else and off of the affairs of my day. That's one of the biggest barriers for sleep for me is that like I am a ruminator, so my brain is going, and it's important for me to count them sheep, to just make sure that my brain gets out of the loop it's stuck in. I'm also someone who sleeps in an eye mask. I cannot sleep without my eye mask. I need that pressure on my eyes. I just need it, right? It relaxes my body and my mind. It's important to know what relaxes your body and your mind so you can prepare to sleep. And also to do whatever you can to make sure you have a schedule that permits you to engage in your sleep rituals for comfort, um, at least a couple times a week, right? No matter what that may be. So as you're recording your dreams, I encourage you to take some time to just think about like what is it that you need to have a comfortable and lasting sleep. To that end, I have this spread for today. Hold on, let me get back on the screen. Okay, there we go. And so this is a spread for freedom dreaming. The first question is, what is keeping me from rest? The second question is, how can I remedy or surmount this obstacle? The third one is, how will I know when I'm getting an appropriate amount of rest? And the final question is, what would be possible in my life with a balanced relationship to rest? I encourage you to do this now, maybe do it later, but you can pause to pull these cards. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me, press the button at the top, or leave any questions you have in the comments, and I'll get back to you. Okay, I'll see you next week.